Hey guys, so today we're going to be doing a discussion-based video. I actually might be doing two of these today. We'll see, because I have a Q&A for Legends also scheduled. I might do that today. I might do that tomorrow. We'll see. Not decided yet. But I do want to talk about a topic that has sort of been very important for a while now, but I feel like the importance has been ramped up recently just due to the units and zenkais that have released. And then this topic is power creep. Power creep in this game has always been a thing. It's always going to be a thing in some regard. I just think the, value of it, or how tangible it feels right now in the game, is at an all-time high, and it's progressively gotten worse. Because if you take a look at like the curve of power creep, I would argue that it's sort of like an upward sloping angle, and it's increasingly getting steeper and steeper and steeper and steeper as it goes along, the lifetime of the game. So I think this is a good time to talk about this topic, and there's really 4 points that I want to discuss. Point number one is, why is power creep inevitable? And before we jump into that, the reason why I even decided to make a video talking about this topic specifically is because of the Game Press tier list, which came out today, and a lot of people have been talking about this specific update to the tier list where Vegito Blue was moved down to S tier. Now this video is not going to be specifically talking about the tier list and whether I agree or disagree with it, but the fact of the matter is they moved Vegito Blue down to S tier, and the units that they have in Z tier are Zenkai Gohan, Zenkai 18, and Zenkai Super Saiyan 3 Goku, who just came out, so he's missing the Zenkai symbol, but a lot of people are upset about this. A lot of people don't agree with this, but to a degree, you could definitely make the argument. I think at the very least, if you don't agree with this and you want to put him here, that's fine. But I think there is at least an argument to be made that this Vegito Blue can fit at the top of S tier, because these guys are all ridiculous as well. Vegito Blue obviously is still very, very ridiculous to this day. And I'm not going to say whether or not I completely agree with this or disagree with this. It's just the argument can be made for this unequivocally. So that's what really brought me into talking about this discussion. And specifically, there was a tweet here. This guy, SSJC44 made, saying, what a meta we're in. A couple of months back, like 3 or 4, we were saying, if Vegito Blue ever drops out of Z tier, this game is a problem. I remember saying that myself. I did say that. Even with Zenkai 7 Gohan running around, for Vegito Blue to now be S tier is astounding. And I went ahead and responded. I quoted this, and I said, I would argue that, yes, the game does have a problem. Like I was talking about like 3 or 4 months ago, if Vegito Blue ever got power creep, we're going to have a problem. And yeah, we do. I would argue that we do have a problem. The power creep has just been ridiculous. Like, it's absurd at this point. So yeah, that's the reason why I decided to talk about this issue in today's video. But yeah, point number one, why power creep is inevitable in this game. Obviously, this game being PvP based, people are going to care about the power level of units that release. And so what does that mean? Because this is a gacha game, all the money that this game makes is based off of people summoning, so they need to give people some sort of an incentive to summon for specific units, right? So let's say they come out with, I don't know, the next LF is like, I don't know, let's just throw out a random unit. An LF Legendary Super Saiyan Broly. If that Broly is like not good enough to push the movies team to like the next level, or not good enough to like really impact the meta a lot, and he's like sort of like a mediocre unit, like when this guy came out, when the Super Saiyan 3 Goku came out, he was really the first quote-unquote balanced legendary finish unit that this game released. And as a result of that, I think people really weren't motivated to summon for this guy. Like even me, like when this guy came out, I didn't even summon for him. I didn't care. I just skipped him. I summoned for Kid Buu. I got like 1 copy of Kid Buu or whatever. I think I may have gotten Kid Buu to like 6 stars or something. Whatever. I did one summon video, and then I just didn't summon for him. I didn't pull him. I didn't care, because he was quote unquote balanced. So there is a big incentive for people to summon for the very, very powerful units in this game, and that's the reason. The reason for that is because it is a PvP based game, right? So that's why power creep is inevitable in this game. And then point number 2 is, how does Zenkai play into power creep? Because I think the Zenkai Awakening system, we really didn't start to see this level of power creep until the Zenkai system was implemented into the game. So if you go back and take a look at last year, I believe it was almost exactly a year ago at this point when they released that massive update. I believe it was in November last year, or maybe even closer to December. Zenkai 7 units, I mean, you only had 3 at the time. You had Beerus, Goku, and Broly, but I would argue that Broly and Beerus more so than Goku, if you took a look at those two at Zenkai 7, fully soul boosted and stuff, they were the best units in the game, and it wasn't even close. Like Beerus at Zenkai 7 when he released, I would argue that jump in power creep from the best non-Zenkai unit in the game going to Zenkai 7 1400% Beerus, that was like the biggest jump we've seen in power of all time. Like not even remotely close. Nothing even comes close to that jump. So like even to this day, Zenkai 7 Beerus is still ridiculously powerful. You take a look at the Zenkai 7 units, and I would argue even today, the newer Zenkai 7 units that are releasing, they are more powerful than new units that are coming out. So like, you take a look at like, I don't know, Great Saiyaman 1 and 2, and then you take a look at one of like the more mediocre Zenkais we've gotten, I guess. I don't even know who's a more mediocre Zenkai that we've gotten. They're all pretty ridiculous. Let me go back and take a look through this. Maybe they're on here. This guy's definitely not mediocre. This guy's definitely not mediocre. Trunks, maybe. He's not mediocre. I'd say he's better than mediocre, but I mean, all these Zenkais are ridiculously powerful. Cell. Okay, Cell is pretty mediocre. I would say this red Cell is probably the most mediocre Zenkai we've gotten in a long time. If you compare this Cell to like the Great Saiyaman 1 and 2 unit, I would argue that this Cell is probably better by himself than that unit is. It's close, right? I mean, it's not 100%. But then someone like this Rose Goku Black, you want to compare him to one of the better Zenkais in the game? I mean, take a look at 18. I would. There's no world where Goku Black is better than 18. 18 is just straight up better than Goku Black. I would say the Super Saiyan 3 Goku is straight up better than Goku Black. So, like, more often than not, like, the better Zenkai units are better than, like, the better versions of the newer characters, and the more mediocre Zenkai units are probably more often than not better than the more mediocre new units that come out. So you're probably better off just summoning for Zenkai units at this point than newer units, because more often than not, they're just better options. Not to mention the Zenkai abilities themselves, which are impacting their teams in a much more effective fashion than just having newer units with Z abilities, right? And then on top of that, we talked about the older Zenkai 7 units that released back a year ago. When the anniversary rolled around, like second year anniversary, Vegito Blue was, he basically, him being the headliner of the anniversary, he needed to be the best unit in the game. Him being the headliner of the anniversary, they couldn't release Vegito Blue. Like, obviously, Vegito Blue is Vegito Blue, right? You need Vegito Blue. Like, it's one of the more anticipated units in this series to come out in this game. They really, really needed to make sure that he was, like, the best unit in the game when he came out. Even more so than Zenkai 7 units. And up to that point, we really hadn't gotten a clear-cut, better unit than a lot of these, Zenkai 7 units that have come out in the past. Like, we have Zenkai Boo, we have Zenkai Cooler, we have Zenkai Beerus, all those, like, those are the big three at the time. And there were no units that were not Zenkai units that really competed with them at all. And then they come out with the anniversary and they're like, okay, it's time to finally, step up the power creep because Vegeta Blue has to be the best. Let's push him up to the next level. And he came out, and I would argue he was probably better than those 3 Zenkai 7 units at the time of his release. So, as you guys would expect, naturally that pushed the power creep up even further, because Zenkai units, a giant step above what we had prior to that, and then the anniversary rolls around. Okay, now we're pushing normal units above Zenkai units. So the question then is, where do we go from there? And I sort of talked about this. We talked about this on the podcast a few times. We were scared to see what was coming next after Vegito Blue, after the second year anniversary. And now, as you can see on this tier list over here, we have, Android 18, we have Super Saiyan 3 Goku Zenkai, and we have everyone's favorite Zenkai LF Gohan. So yeah, it definitely plays a huge part of the power creep. And then the last point I want to make about Zenkais and them playing into power creep is the pacing of Zenkais. Obviously, they've really been trying to push out a ton of these Zenkai units within a very short span of time. I think they've been trying to do every other week as a new Zenkai unit. But I think releasing so many insanely powerful characters so rapidly even further exacerbates this problem of power creep, Because think about how far away these guys all release from each other. Even somebody like Zenkai 16 was not that old, or someone like Zenkai Demon King Piccolo, he's not that old. Like these guys, like the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These 5 Zenkais. Is there any more? Trunks. I mean, let's just talk about these 5 for now. These 5 Zenkais, I would like. They literally all released within the past like 3 months or so. So the fact that you have so many powerful units all clustered together, all releasing around the same time period, that's going to increase power creep a lot, because now that you have all those units, and that's sort of like the norm of these new Zenkai units that are releasing, these new units are coming out like Green Goku Black, like they have to be ridiculously powerful. Like I imagine what we're going to be seeing in, well, I'm recording this before we see the new units that are in the Legends and Stuff video, but I imagine what we see in the Legends and Stuff video, like they're going to be stupidly busted, because they have to be. That's just how this is going right now. So that's how I would argue that Zenkai plays a part into power creep. So that was number 2. Number 3, power creep affects not only units but entire teams. It's not just, oh, you know, this let's go back to this list. It's not like, oh, this purple Super Saiyan 3 Goku's out, I guess that means Super Saiyan 4 Goku, the purple one, is no longer viable on Sun Family. No, well, that is true, but that is true. But the main topic I want to talk about is the fact that because of these power creep teams that are being affected by these Zenkais and just power crept units in general. So I don't know. Let's just take a look at all the power creep that happened during the anniversary. So we go back here: Vegeta Blue, Zamasu, Super Saiyan 4 Goku, Omega, and Rage Trunks. Like the main 3 are these future ones. And this future team was so ridiculous that you really had no reason to run any other team other than this team right here. We had these 2 GT characters release, but it's like, why would you ever run this GT team when you could just run this future team? And that's what you saw. You saw people running the future team, and you barely saw anybody run the GT team. And I think even to today, the GT team is the biggest victim of this concept where power creeping affects teams instead of just, you know, individual units, because this GT team has not received a buff since the anniversary. Omega is very, very good. I would argue that for sure. I mean, I'm not going to say he's not very good. This full power Super Saiyan 4 Goku is good. I'm not going to say he's not good. But then you have units like this Goku Black. Then you have units like, you know, all these future units over here. You have this LF Majin Vegeta. You have all these Zenkai units up here. You have purple Vegeta. Like you have all these hybrid units. Like, why would you ever run GT? You just wouldn't. At least I don't think so, unless you just were trying to have fun or something, which is a viable thing to do, obviously. But if you want to be competitive with, you know, trying to rank up and win matches, you're not going to be running this team. It's not viable. So that's why the power creep not only affects individual units, but teams as well, because, again, you pull Omega right now, and he's good by himself, but his team is just not up to par with the other teams that you would rather be running right now. And another point that we can talk about is if entire teams are power crept because they aren't revisited for months and months at a time. I experienced this recently with LOE, right? When was the last time LOE got a new unit? It's been like forever. How would you feel if that was your main team? And what I mean by that more specifically is if you're a free-to-play player and you're like, okay, I'm free-to-play. I'm not going to be able to summon on every single banner. Let me pick a tag, and I'm going to stick to that tag as my main tag, so that I can summon on banners that have characters belonging to that tag. I'll have a better chance of ranking up in PvP. I'll be able to keep up with these whales and whatever. I'm gonna have a fully fleshed out team and stuff like that. So let's say you just picked movies, right? You picked movies because back when you started the game, Bojack and Gohan were the 2 newer units, and they were very, very powerful for the movies team, right? Let's go take a look at the movies team. Oops, that's the wrong one. So I guess in the movies. All right, so you got Gohan, you got Bojack. You know, you picked up this Broly and Shilai unit. You have this purple cooler coming in, and that's fine. From that point forward, up until when Turles and this Green Goku came out, until we got this Great Saiyaman 1 and 2 unit, this team didn't receive a single new unit, just at all. Like, you could go down here, nothing, literally nothing released for this tag. So I think another big issue that we can talk about relating to power creep and just teams being affected by it instead of just individual units is the developers taking the stance or the design philosophy that only buffing 2 or whatever small amount of tags they want to at once. Maybe this month they focus on hybrids and they focus on regen for this month. The next month it'll be androids and whatever. I think them not, buffing all these tags in a uniform manner is counterintuitive to the design philosophy of limiting power creep in this game. Because buffing, we could go back and talk about hybrids, because hybrids is the biggest offender of this recently in the game, where hybrids just received. This guy got a zenkai. This guy came out. Then you had this guy come out. Both the transforming kid, Goten and Trunks came out. Then you had this guy come out, the Ultimate Gohan. Then down here, we could take a look at. I would talk about Gotenks already, but like the zenkai. Where is he? Where's that Trunks? This Zenkai Legends Road Trunks came out, and then there's a million different things we could talk about. Then this Trunks got a Zenkai as well. Like this tag just kept non-stop getting new things, and then this guy for the anniversary as well, the yellow Trunks. So if you're a hybrids player, you're obviously very happy because they receive buffs. But again, if you're a movies player and you're seeing all this power creep, like it's not just they got new units, they got new ridiculous. This is the best unit in the game, Zenkai 7 LF Gohan. It's like not even close. Like this guy, if I was making the tier list, this guy would be in his own tier. Like he just would. He's just way too powerful. This was a mistake. This is the biggest mistake they've ever made in this game. So yeah, if you're a movies main, how would you feel? Like you would just I would quit the game. If I was free to play and I was playing movies and this game went 6-7 months without releasing a new unit for this team. Meanwhile, hybrids is getting this guy, like all these new units. I'm quitting the game. Like I instantly quitting the game. So that's a huge issue. With how they've handled buffing certain tags in this game in the past. All right, and then number 4, this is the last topic I want to sort of talk about here, is what is the solution to this problem of power creep? Now, I have 2 bullets for this. I usually don't even write scripts for these discussion videos, but I do have 2 bullets written down for this because it's kind of difficult to think of a solution for this problem. They've sort of dug themselves into a hole here, I would say. But I think, at this point, there's 2 things that they could do. Number 1 is they should be releasing units that aren't designed to solely carry teams, but rather as extra options that are on par with what we have already to increase diversity of those teams, while slightly making them better. When I say slightly making them better, I don't mean releasing this guy, right? I don't mean doing this. Like this is not conducive to a healthy environment in the game, right? Don't release this guy where he's just 50 million times better than every other unit in the game. What they should be doing, I guess we can go back to the movies tag. Let's say they come out with a new, I'll just go with the same example I did earlier. Let's say they release a new Legendary Super Saiyan Broly unit, right? Maybe he's like, I don't know, some really, really powerful blue movies unit. Or actually, no, he would be blue because we already have one. I don't know, yellow. He's a powerful yellow movies unit, Legendary Super Saiyan Broly. He's the best unit on this tag, but he's not overwhelmingly powerful to the point where he's just dominating PvP. As long as you have him on your team, you're going to win the game. Like, the main reason why new units should be introduced are not to just completely dominate everything in the game. It should just be to give teams more options, make things more interesting, provide certain aspects to these tags that didn't exist prior to their release. Things like that. They don't have to just one-up the previous best units in the game. I think that's the biggest issue that this game has had. So that's my first point here. And then the second point is going to be very, very, very controversial. And I know that the designers behind this game has taken the philosophy that they don't really want to ever directly nerf units in this game. But I think directly nerfing units that are specifically identified as problem units, quote unquote problem units, who single-handedly threaten the stability and balance of the entire ecosystem of PvP in this game should be considered for a direct nerf. And when I say that, I talk about units like this, right? Units like this. I think I already have them pulled up. No, I don't. Units like this, Zenkai LF Gohan. Again, biggest mistake they've ever made. This guy, for me, this guy ruined the game for me. Prior to this guy coming out, I'd say the biggest offender was this guy. And the philosophy that they've taken, rather than just being like, okay, we own up to our mistake because this is a mistake. We can all agree that this guy's a mistake. This is obviously. You can take a look at the leaderboards. The top like 100 spots are all this go on. it's not even like, it's a joke at this point. But I think we can all agree that this was a mistake. I would even argue that the developers probably admit that this is a mistake. What they should do is, instead of taking the stance of, okay, you know what, we're just going to release a bunch of units that are better than this guy so that we can fix our mistake. Because guess what that does? It just power creeps every other unit in the game that's worse than this guy. That's exactly what we've been seeing happen, right? We take a look at this, and this. We take a look at this. Like, all these units are just like, they shouldn't exist because this guy's good. Like, because this guy's better than everything in the game, we shouldn't then have to pay the price for their mistake by having to deal with this, or having to deal with this, right? So I think instead of pushing the power creep to a degree where it makes like every other unit in the game that's not new or relevant, is they should consider nerfing these units, I think. It would have to be done very carefully. Contrary to popular belief, a lot of people are going to say, oh, they can't nerf units, it's a gacha game, it's illegal. It's not illegal. They can nerf units in this game. They just choose not to because it would look very bad. But I would argue that it already looks very bad. Like, the fact that this guy's in the game, it looks bad. It really does look very bad to me. The fact that they've chose to make this guy as good as he is, and the fact that he invalidates pretty much every other unit in the game. Same thing with this guy when he released as well. It already looks very bad. So I think this mistake that they've made, they have to own up to it, and they have to correct it in some way. And I think the way that they've chosen to correct it by just power creeping everything else is just not the correct decision. So that is my sort of rant about power creep in this game. You guys can let me know down below if you agree or disagree. And this actually went on for longer than I had intended it to go on, but those are my thoughts on this issue. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you all in the next one.